Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello, welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast where we have digital discussions, the worlds of social media, sports, TV, pop culture, everything really. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis. On Twitter, I go as PD Beats. Do a lot of hockey. We are speaking to a goaltender who currently plays for the Peterborough Petes in the OHL and who was recently drafted by the Minnesota Wild in the 2019 NHL draft. We are speaking to Hunter Jones. Hunter, welcome to Popternative.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Getting right into it, you went down to Vancouver for the draft. I mean, to hear your name being called by the Minnesota Wild, what was the first couple of things going through your mind?
It was pretty crazy. I didn't really know where I was going to get picked in the draft. Obviously, you're hoping for higher than later, and I thought I was pretty fortunate to go where I was. I went in the draft on Saturday, and just seeing the draft board as it went, as it progressed through the round, I wasn't really sure which team might pick me, or if I was even going to get selected in the second round. So. And then Minnesota traded up for that pick, and then I was just in complete shock when they called my name. But obviously, they expressed some interest in me throughout the season, and then obviously they liked my game, and they traded up to get me, so that speaks volumes for itself. So, I'm really fortunate to be a part of their organization.
Was it one of those things where, like, for example, you interviewed with them at the Combine?
I honestly can't remember. That was so long ago, but I do recall I did talk to them prior to the draft, so yeah. I'm just not sure whether it was during the season or at the Combine. I forget.
What kind of goaltender are the Minnesota Wild getting with Hunter Jones?
Well, I think obviously, technically, I'm a pretty big guy on the ice and stuff like that, and I played lacrosse growing up, so I'm always a pretty athletic guy, so I'm able to make some athletic saves when I have to. But I think my main thing is I'm a very structured guy. I like to stay in the net as much as I can and make my job easy. But other than that, outside the rink as well, I think they're getting a really good community guy, just someone that's easy to talk to, a nice person around the team, and just a good person.
So it's funny you mentioned that because I interviewed Isaiah Roby, who got drafted in the NBA in the second round. He's going to be playing for the Dallas Mavericks. And I kind of was doing the interview with him, and I was realizing, I was talking to him, that he's a really nice guy, really humble, down-to-earth guy. Do you think there's kind of a misconception with athletes that they're just always just focused, they have no personality? I mean, how important is it for Hunter Jones to be this quote-unquote nice guy?
Well, I just think it's another aspect of the package that you are for the team that drafts you. I mean, there's a lot of people in the world that can stop the puck, but if you don't have the people side too, on the other hand, you deal with a lot of people and a lot of community stuff as you play hockey. So it's very important to kind of keep your relationships good with your fan base, and then interact with people around the community. They're coming to support you at hockey games and stuff like that. So you obviously have to give your support back and show your appreciation for what they do for you.
Development is very important, and development is kind of a tricky situation. Some people develop quicker than others. Some people, it takes their time. You look at a player like Jordan Binnington, who's been in the St. Louis Blues organization for quite some time and showed up as a rookie this year, won a Stanley Cup. How important is it to kind of take it day by day and kind of not rush the process for Hunter Jones?
I think it's just as you said there, just taking it day by day and not trying to get too caught up in the future and just all the politics of what goes into the NHL teams, and not really get caught up in the depth charts and the systems and whatnot, because those can change so quickly with the NHL. Even in Minnesota's case, you have Devin Dubnyk and Alex Stalock, and then the American League guys, and obviously those two guys are on the older end of their playing careers, but that could change in an instant with a trade or something like that. So that's something you can't really concern yourself about, and you just have to worry about your game. And obviously, if you're playing well, the Minnesota Wild is going to see that you're playing well, and you're going to progress through their system and then get an opportunity at some point.
How was it difficult to, I mean, you're playing in Peterborough in the OHL, and then it's your draft year, and this is something that, you're having conversations. It's kind of, you see social media, like people are talking about the draft. Was it as hard as you thought it was, or easier than you thought it was, to block out a lot of the NHL noise and focus on the task at hand in Peterborough at the time, Hunter?
I think it was a little easier than I thought it would be. Like a little bit of both. Sometimes it'd be a little harder, and sometimes it'd be a little easier. I mean, when your name starts getting out there and you start getting exposed to a lot more media and a lot more stuff like that, when you're putting up some solid performances, and then you're getting your name thrown out in articles and draft rankings and stuff like that, it's a little difficult to kind of keep your head out of that, and you try not to get too focused on that stuff, because you don't want to get your ego too big before you go into the draft, and then you just have a total misconception on there. So, but I mean, at the same time, I think it was pretty easy for me too, just to take my mindset, and just like I said before, just taking it day by day, and just worrying about the things that I could control, and just play hockey, to be honest. So.
The World Junior Hockey Championship is obviously a tournament that is watched by a lot of Canadians and a lot of people around the globe every year. And Hockey Canada for a couple of years now have done a World Junior Summer Showcase camp, and you are invited to that camp. You are one of those goalies invited to the camp. Does that kind of bring kind of a fresh kind of mentality and a fresh kind of situation with that whole thing, as it's like a winter tournament, but then you kind of have to think about it a little bit in the summer? Like, have you thought about that at all?
Not to like a certain extent. Like I've obviously, I got the call from Mark Hunter on the phone telling me that I was going to be attending the summer showcase around 2 weeks after I got home from the first development camp with the goaltenders in Calgary. So I was obviously very ecstatic, and it was right before the draft. So I knew that it would kind of help me out a little bit heading into the draft. But I mean, it's obviously something I want to do this Christmas, is be on that team, and I want to be able to play for my country again. I mean, I've already done it a couple times, and anytime you're able to represent your country or wear the Maple Leaf is an honor. So I mean, even attending the summer showcase and being able to play some exhibition games against the other countries is going to be cool, and just another memory that you won't forget.
Is there kind of one word on the top of your head that you can use to describe how it is to represent Team Canada? Passion, maybe?
Yeah, just something like, I don't really have the words. Like it kind of just leaves you speechless. Like it's you walk into your stall on game day and you see the Team Canada crests around the room, but you go to your stall and you flip the jersey over and your name's on the back, and you know that you're going to go out in the ice and play. So that's something special, and especially when you're going up against Russia and the Americans. Like, you're not just playing the Kitchener Rangers, like you're playing an entire other country here, and it's it's a big stage. It's the world stage, so it's pretty cool.
Perfect segue. So you got drafted by the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota is an area that in the United States is becoming a hotbed for hockey. There's a lot of areas and a lot of cities and a lot of states that are making a lot of hockey players in the States. Everyone calls it, quote unquote, Canada's game. But it's no surprise that, there's some amazing talent coming from the U.S., Hunter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at this year's NHL draft, the national development team was, I think almost every single player on that team was attending an NHL camp after the draft. So, I mean, I think the United States does a really good job of developing their players as well. Obviously, the CHL and the U.S. players are taken pretty highly at the NHL draft, and they always, come out of the NHL draft being the leading players being graduated into the NHL. So, I mean, it's always very competitive when you see those two countries go against each other on the world stage. Canada versus U.S. is always a very interesting game to watch. So, I mean, you can applaud the national development program for what they did for their clubs this year at the NHL level. But I mean, same with the CHL. I mean, they've always done a good job of developing their players and graduating them.
For sure. A couple more questions before we wrap up. What were some takeaways from Minnesota Wild development camp, Hunter?
I think it was just kind of a week to kind of get my feet wet with the organization. I went in there, and it was pretty different than what I was used to. I mean, you go in there and you do workouts, and the workouts are intense, and the medical testing is different, and then you go on the ice, and you're surrounded by some pro hockey players and some prospects at development camp, and then you're on the ice with the coaching staff, and you get to hear their feedback and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting to see the different types of feedback from Peterborough and then from Minnesota. So just comparing those two, those positive and negative feedback towards your game, and try to implement them as much as you can, and just take it or leave it, and just try to get better.
Were there some players at the camp that you were very interested, that you were like impressed with moving forward? Was there someone that you didn't know about that you were like, wow, this is a very good player? Was there anyone like that?
Well, I knew the majority of the guys there. Like, I mean, some of the guys were new, like the college guys I had met before and stuff like that. But I mean, guys around the league that I had already played against and stuff like that, I kind of already like knew their game because you play against them in the OHL and whatnot. But I mean, it's kind of cool to see the guys that I don't really play a lot. I mean, Damien Giroux off Saginaw, we only play them twice, I think. And, I don't really get to see his shot that often, but I knew when he was coming down on me that it was going to be a bomb. Like, he's got a pretty hard shot. So, I mean, that's kind of just the things that's pretty cool about development camp.
You talk about these players that have these bombs, these big shots, these clappers. One can ask someone that doesn't watch a lot of hockey will go up to a guy like you and be like, why? Like, why put yourself through that? Like, why do you want to do that? So why does Hunter Jones want to be a goalie?
I don't know. It's just kind of something I was always interested when I was younger. I started out as a defenseman, and then I asked my dad if I could be a goalie after I tried being a goalie one night when I was around 7 or 8 years old, and he said, 1 year from now, if you still want to be a goalie on this day, we can make the switch full time. So I played defenseman for 1 more year, and then asked to switch, and that was kind of it. I just never really turned back, and I don't know. I've kind of just always enjoyed the position. It's a very individual position. It's hard.
No, absolutely. Social media is a huge thing in sports in general, and you have a very good Twitter handle. Would you like to tell people what your Twitter handle is?
It's Shutouts Jones. It's pretty unique.
And it's one of those things where I think a lot of people were talking about that on social media. Was that kind of brought up by Minnesota at all, like your Twitter handle?
It was hard for me to kind of explain it all at once, but yeah.
No, absolutely. It's an interesting handle. Well, Hunter, we'll wrap up, but thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really, really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
No, absolutely. Well, this has been, first of all the best in Peterborough.
Thank you.
It's going to be a big year for you, and all the best at the Summer Showcase.
Thank you.
It's going to be a big year for Hunter Jones. I could feel it, man. I could really feel it. So let's get that done.
Hope so.
Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative. For previous episodes, we've got a lot of NHL draft prospect episodes as well. And until next time, this is Hunter Jones and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.